focuses on responding towards the GDT 2030, which is our Growing Gauteng Together program that aims to bring about economic recovery, industrialization, and especially the development of the township economy. So as a chief directorate, we develop sector plans and strategies which guide our steps in terms of the development of sectors such as the clothing, textile, and footwear industry, as well as implementing of programs through implementing partners which bring about skills development, SME development to respond to GDT 2030 objectives, but especially job creation in the province. So from the unit that I'm from, in terms of chief director, sector and industry, I'll focus on manufacturing, and one of the sectors that we do focus on is the clothing, textile, and the footwear industry.
Guys, my name is Andile Cele. I come from a company called Design Original Product Enterprise, which is initially a design company that focuses on designing, manufacturing, and retailing clothing goods. We own a store where we sell other people's brands as well. So my main focus is basically around design and giving people market access to other brands' market access.
My name is Mohau Memeza from the Craft and Design Institute, based here in Johannesburg at the Creative Uprising Hub. Basically what we do, we're an organization that supports creatives in starting their own businesses and creating viable businesses from their passion. We offer a buffet of services that creatives can tap into in terms of taking their businesses to the next level.
My name is Makhosazane, and I am the maker and the creative director at a company called ROSA Handmade in SA, which I founded in 2017. We are hand making products using a technique that is crocheting. So I started out just as like a hobby, and then went on to sell my wares at various markets. And then I currently own a studio and a shop in Johannesburg in a place called Prison Break Market, where we manufacture everything on site. And then we also train various women from the townships who live in Old Bosch and Diepskloof. I've had like a few ladies that I've worked with over the years. And then we also teach our craft because my main thing is to keep hand weaving skills, those age-old skills alive, and then encouraging the hand manufacturing of products. So that is my passion, that's my drive, and I have been able to continue with this for the past 8 years.
Cool. So Mr. Walaza, can you talk to us please in regards to the types of opportunities that the Department of Economic Development in Gauteng sees prevalent for the growth of the industry when it comes to fashion design and textile?
Sure. So as I mentioned, from the work that we do in terms of implementation of programs with implementing partners within the clothing, textile, and footwear industry. So we have partnered with an implementing partner that aims to address the issues that the industry is facing. For example, the skills level, the lack of localization, the lack of SME support. So those are the type of things that we aim to focus on as a department, to provide the skills, to provide the SME support. But besides that, in terms of developing of competitiveness of our SMEs within the industry, we also aim to continuously host workshops which aim to bring about market access to our SMEs. So it's basically bringing the right people within the room, for example, to teach SMEs in terms of tender procurement requirements, what the market requires in terms of its criteria, so that our SMEs get knowledge in terms of the environment them in their development as well as the contribution towards building a textile and African industry.
Thank you. Andile, I believe you've had the pleasure of attending one of these workshops quite recently. Can you just share with our colleagues and our audience what your takeaway as a creative is and your experience?
Yes, so I did attend one of those workshops. The knowledge that I gained from attending the workshop was very insightful. But there was a bit of a challenge on how do I find myself being able to execute and put together the knowledge for me to get that access. So I think the department is doing well by having the workshops and telling us how to do it. Maybe there could be a better way of saying, okay, within the part of the workshop, here's a form, fill in this form. After we fill in this form, we need X, Y, and Z. What can we do to get you that X, Y, and Z right now? So that if you take me from step 0 to maybe like step 30, 40, I leave the workshop on 40% because I think when you do those workshops, there are those situations where, you're right, Mr. Wala, there are those situations where you can't just, okay, where's your registration? Where's this? Let me put you in the portal right now. Sure. Let's open the portal. There's X, Y, and Z. Since you are in this workshop, I think you can get this and this and this. But for you to get it, we've got procedures. After you leave here, in the next 2-3 weeks, you talk to me directly. And then let's help you find all of those things. Once you tick those boxes, I'm going to automatically give you this access. Yeah. Instead of me going there, I get the knowledge, but even just working the system, I'm not really sure how I work it. After that, Mr. Walaza, I'm going to meet you a year later. Then we're going to go through the same thing again. But once I'm 40 steps, like let's say 40% in, I've got 60 that you're going to help me in the next, because I'm sure that 60% we can achieve it in the next 3-4 weeks. Then I've got appetite to say, oh, I've got this thing now. Yeah. Let me look for other ones within the platform because I know how to use a platform. I'm already registered. I've got all the boxes ticked. Now I just look for the platform. Then you can go and do that with somebody else. Yeah. Because when I go home and I've got the takeaway, I still got to run my own business and do all these other things in between. Yeah. I'm not really sure if I'm going to get that opportunity, so I'm going to concentrate on what I'm looking at right now and what can help me right now. Yeah. But as an entrepreneur and a maker, I need to get a shift. Yeah. So I think when you have those workshops, have the workshop maybe like for 3 hours, like telling us everything. Say, hey, if you want to stay, we're still here for another 3 hours. We can help facilitate this because since you do this and this and this, we've got this on the platform. We've got it. Yeah. We can help you as far as we can help you. Yeah. If you go home, you need to do your part. Yeah. But you've got me on WhatsApp tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow until I get you here. Yeah. Because I think there's a lot of these platforms, there's a lot of opportunities, but like as makers, we've got a lot of things that we go to as well. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So I think the purpose of those workshops, yes, is to provide the knowledge in terms of these other steps, in terms of procurement requirements, as well as the e-commerce platform that was there on the day.
Yes.
Spoke about these other types of steps. But I get what you said, that rather on the day, rather than waiting for the next day to continuously do those practical steps, let us rather structure our workshops to accommodate makers, to take them through certain steps. Maybe we might forget something that you learned at that particular workshop.
Yes.
So if we have a particular section over 2 hours, just to ensure that you understood the tender requirements, you take them through it, to understand that e-commerce platform in terms of its requirements. I think that type of intervention.
I'll even make an example. Let's say you set up like for makers, you set up a market, right? You say, okay, cool, there's going to be 3,000 people who are going to come here, right? I'm going to help you build your stalls and everything. You know, there's some markets where it's like maybe it's a government initiative. They will come with vouchers and say, okay, cool, since you've showed up, man, we're gonna give some of our people that we've invited, whatever, a voucher for 500 rand. They can go and purchase from you. Or another scenario where, which is also good enough. I provide a platform, I give you the market, but everybody that comes in, then you're not sure, the 3,000, are they buying from me, are they not buying from me? But I've already spent 2,000 rand coming here, doing all this, I must eat, I must do all those things. So maybe instead of giving me a store that costs 1,500, you give me a store that costs 1,000 rand, and then you give people a voucher that they must come to your store and redeem. So it's the same thing, but the other one gives me so much more encouragement, emotionally, financially, it gives me, and also when other people see other people buying, right? That attracts that energy of more people to come to buy. You know, then you're achieving those goals in so many different ways. But I think that the thought process is the same, but the execution, if you look at it in a different way, it takes you somewhere. So that when you do the other market, now I wake up like I'm possessed because I know there's something that I'm willing to gain back.
Rosa, in response to that, as a business owner who owns her own store, who's in an established creative space where people come to shop, etc. So you've had these years of experience creating a product and then moving into sales. What is your opinion on how creative makers generate sales, the stature of running your own business with the store? Obviously you've got rent to pay, etc., and it's a lot of pressure. As an individual, how do you then ensure that you are creating business, stabilizing your business, without necessarily having to have external support, because you're on your own as a business owner, right? So can you talk to us about that experience?
Certainly. I mean, how I started is I started selling at pop-up markets in and around Johannesburg, where I would go, say, on a weekend. So firstly, you've got to know what is the cost of exhibiting at this space that's available. Right. So you find out, okay, so there are cheaper spaces they provide, and you come there with your table, and then you've got your products that you've made, just like enough to sell. So in that, you have to look, am I able to cover my costs, my traveling, and all of that, and the product that I'm selling there, is it something that can move quickly, or is it something that is like more high-end, am I in the right space? So I did a lot of market testing, different venues, different places where I would go, sometimes I'm invited, and then I would assess out as I go. So I would always know, maybe this is not my crowd, maybe the product that I have then, needs to be more affordable, you see. So it was like a couple of years of trying all of that, and then of course whatever money you make, you have to put it back into the business. So yes, all your costs, cost of selling, cost of exhibiting, and of manufacturing as well, because I had to buy the yarn, I had to do all of this. So, and then by the time I decided to set up shop, which was in 2021, there was a space where one of my customers phoned me and they said, there's a space that's going to be opened at Johannesburg, and then you get to manufacture on site, and it's going to be like both a studio and a shop. And so for me, it wasn't a place of, okay, I've got money, I can do this, and it was, okay, I'm going to try out. And I signed a 3-month lease, which I thought was very long already, because we're just coming out of COVID, right? And a lot of markets had closed. There was no exhibiting during COVID. It felt like, okay, this is the end of it. I built my whole model around exhibiting at markets, and now this can't continue. And then now, to retain, I have to take a bigger jump now to say, all right, if this has to work, maybe let me try and see if I can go bigger, if I can have more ladies that I'm going to be working with, more people to train, and try and really establish this brand. Again, very unsettling, not knowing how it's going to pan out. But then, yeah, I think you just manage your costs as you go. The space that you are retailing at has to be, not too costly. And then also the crowd around, am I in the right location? And also my product, is it a product that, continuously draws and attracts people? Is my creativity growing within it? Or am I just making same old, and then it dies out that way? So it's challenging, but I think it's a point in time one needs assistance, one needs funding, one needs to be directed the right way as to how do you then grow further than just being a self-employed person who's just like, your business now ends up being just, this is what I do for a living. I am not growing as big as I should have grown over time, because as Andile mentions, we're not able to produce like 1,000 units at one go. Everything's made from scratch. We're not running a mini machine that just produces so many things. So also in terms of putting yourself out into different spaces and retail and other retailers, and there's a question of how much am I able to produce in order for me to have access, because again, the challenges that we're having is all of these retailers, they want your stuff at consignment, which is like a swear word to America, right? Consignment, they just give stuff, let it sit there, let's see if it's gonna sell, and then we want 50% of the commission if and when it sells. But in the meantime, you need money coming in. You want to be able to pay your rent and your staff and all of these costs. So yes, it's just been quite a journey around that, but that's how I've done it. Yeah.
Thank you. Mohau, I think this is a good opportunity for you as a NGO organization, the Craft Design Institute of South Africa, which was actually fielded and began very far away from Johannesburg, when you guys moved up here and into our creative hub and set up your offices here. Can you talk to us about, having heard what creators are saying, having heard what development in government has on offer, where does the CBI fit in? What kind of work do you do that builds these bridges? Because perhaps based on volume, government entities are now planning, producing, right? Because there's a lot of people to put through the mill, to educate, to help and support. But as an organization that I see almost as a medical person, where is it that an organization such as yours, because we have a lot of them in this province, can now bridge the gap? Is there the possibility for a CBI to say, great, we understand the content and the opportunities and the platforms created, but can we have the initiative when we are now fielding the long-term execution? Because what we're hearing from ROSA is it's difficult, and from Andile, as we all know, you sit in one lecture and half the information, 90% is not stored, right? So execution and priority. How do you feel organizations and CBI can bridge the gap? What do you do already that's bridging that gap? And what is your opinion on closing it?
Yeah. No, look, I think this is a great platform and opportunity to unpack these things. I think we've been an organization that's been in operation for more than 20 years. So throughout those years, we've gathered a lot of experience, and what anchors us is our human-centered approach. Before we are dealing with creatives, we see them as human beings. And starting from that, it allows us to even, the way we assist, we're dealing with human beings. And human beings are faced with various challenges. And here you are, you're taking this very important, quite a brave step, because entrepreneurship is not for anyone. Therefore, where do we start? And we've gotten to understand from that point of view to say, you come into us from wherever you are. So the background of the CDR, how it started, it was in Cape Town, in these tourist spots, women selling their products, and our CEO, Erica Elk, noticed that people are selling the same things. can't be sitting in, and they are all in the same row. Therefore, we see it everywhere we go. You go to Durban, you go to, all these toy sports. You have people just sitting in one row selling the same product. And she was like, this is beautiful, these are beautiful products, but how can we help these women to differentiate themselves? How can they be unique? So that's how it started. Diversifying the product, understanding costing and pricing. It started from those small things. And we realized working with creatives is quite challenging. I mean, what I'm hearing from my colleagues right now, we hear it all the time. We are confronted with it. And what becomes a challenge to us is how do you start making people shift, that mind shift to say, this is my passion, and how do I start generating revenue out of it? Where do I start? So that's where we kind of like start from, is financial literacy. What is your understanding around that? What is your understanding around your business model? What are your channels of revenue? What are your channels of your business system? So I must say, it's quite a challenging space. And then outside of that, because that is now the immediate interface with our beneficiaries, then we also have to deal with the ecosystem as well. Then we've got our government partners, we've got other stakeholders, educational institutions, because financial literacy, I think, needs to start from school. And we find that people are just totally oblivious on how money works, income and outcome, like those basics. And it starts from our education system. So we find ourselves, being at that interface, but also we are now moving towards an advocacy space where we're trying to also, navigate the ecosystem that is going to feed off in terms of our interventions.
As someone who's walked a journey that's achieved greatness, I must give flowers. I don't know if Memeza said flowers in 2025. It's a very big bouquet. But, is there struggle? Do you find that there's a struggle to establish your brand as a creative maker? Because there's a difference, I believe, between a maker and somebody who's already a producer. Right? Because Rosa used the word art earlier. She said it's art. It's not product, it's art, right? So you've had a beautiful journey. Can you share a little bit about your journey? And what is it that made you persistent to the point that that big door opened that you walked through onto that big stage?
So I can share my journey. My journey started, I say about 20 years ago, where I was a sports lover. I grew up loving sports, so basketball was a sport that I played. And then obviously Michael Jordan is the big guy in basketball. So if you play basketball, you want to emulate Michael Jordan. So my fashion journey starts with Michael Jordan shoes. And then that grows to the next snowball where I've got the shoes. After I play, I want to wear something different because I see all my role models wearing something different. Then from the shoes, it's to the clothes. Then the clothes, I make my own clothes because I don't have access to the clothes that I see from my role models. That's how I started making my own clothes. And then from there, you make the clothes and you want to sell your clothes, but there's not stores that want to take your clothes. So that's how I got into having a store, to welcome other people with different thoughts and taking their clothes. I mean, my colleague shared that retailers, they want to put stuff on consignment, which is a bad word. But look, I'm a retailer. The same way you've got overheads, and because I'm a maker and a retailer, so I've got double overheads. So I can't buy your clothes and let them sit, and then I must pay the overheads. But what I can do, I can give you a platform, and then we can share the costs. So that's how that ecosystem. So because I can see both worlds, I kind of know how to navigate around those both worlds. And then having to connect and see how to, it doesn't always work the way you want it to work, but as soon as when you generate revenue, I think you've got a story to share. You can always, your door's always open to say, okay, since I'm generating, maybe I can help the retailer and give them 50%. Because I'm going home with something. Then let me raise my price so that my 50% still makes me happy, and then the retailer gets their 50%, and then they're happy. Instead of saying, no, I want to sell it at 200 Rand, but I want 200 Rand. Who's paying the retailer staff and all their overheads? So maybe let's sell it at 400 Rand, so that you get your 200 Rand, the retailer gets their 200 Rand. So it's all of those doors and navigating and trial and error to try and find a common ground. Because if you're a maker and you doing revenue for me, let's say you're doing 30% of my revenue, and you say, hey, I'm tired of just giving you this thing for free. I think we've done enough money, enough revenue for you to buy my things from me straight at a certain discount. So now you're not doing it you're not giving it to me at 200 Rand. I'll give it to you at 160, but you gotta buy them off right straight from me. If I can generate 400 Rand from that 160, I think I'll be open and say, okay, I'll buy 10 straight now. But we need to get to that point some way, somehow, because I can't buy your stuff at 160 and then they sit there. That's my money lost. So it's those doors and those opportunities that lead up. But I think the key thing for me to even understand that, I needed to be in both those worlds.
Yes, Walaza, I want to bring this back to you now, because conversation versus mandate. What do you feel the Chief Directorate, the department, the work you're fielding into the future, what do you think that relationship has with storytelling? Because as a culture, right, we have a deep immersive journey that we share through storytelling, that we should be sharing through conversation. Earlier on there was a mention, I think it was Mohau, that said, we deal with humans first. And whilst we are driving something as big as the economy, which is sitting on your shoulders and your department's shoulders, how do you think these types of conversations, surveys, inputs can contribute to the growth of your work going forward?
So I think, as mentioned earlier, that we develop sector plans and sector strategies. So our work, even though we'll conduct research ourselves, but the majority of the work that goes into is through industry conversations, because those are the type of inputs that shape our work. Because it becomes difficult to have impact in society if we do not have a sector plan or a strategy that is responsive towards what's happening. So yes, we are looking at skills development, job placement, SME development, but there are certain things that I've heard within this conversation that we should also be looking into. Should we also be facilitating engagements with retailers, for example? How best can SMEs have better platforms for them to sell their products? Should we have this conversation as well within the state itself? So we create those spaces within the state so that these creatives, the ones that produce the products, they have spaces in which they can operate at a much cheaper rate. So these type of inputs, we do take them into consideration in our planning processes. So we do not do things in isolation, because as GDED, our main aim is to ensure that the province, we go back to our mandate in terms of supporting as well as facilitating economic development. So that is our core, but in terms of getting there, the most important part is these conversations that shape our understanding of the industries or the sectors that we deem as catalysts towards development and job creation.
What would you like to gain out of collaborations? What type of collaborations are you looking for? And I think this is just as applicable to the CBI as it is to our academic. Go for it.
No, most certainly, collaborations are very important in the creative process. Firstly, because you may have an idea of what you want to make, and then when you bring in other creatives into your vision and you share ideas, as to say, for example, you can make one product and then it's sitting there, but for it to be able to be utilized efficiently, somebody else can bring in more efficient ideas, and then both of you can then come up with something that is more tangible, more usable. Say, for example, we've got my products is more like decorative accessories. But then if I partner, say, with interior designers, for example, then we get to now visualize that this product that you're making can be used in spaces like this for it to be much more elevated. And we're talking about aesthetics, we're talking about functionality, we're talking about, how at the end of the day it tells the story of both creatives in the spaces. And then also it helps with reducing costs, and then also to build better networks, So collaborations are really what drives African design, what drives creativity, because in any spaces when there is just not you wanting to say, all right, me, I do this alone, but growth is always much more better if there are more than just one people in the space here.
With entrepreneurs, I think we've always encouraged partnerships. I think collaboration is important, but you need to have a strategy as to what you want to achieve through that collaboration. So we've always encouraged entrepreneurs to say, look, what is out there? The ecosystem is quite big. There's a lot of government initiatives that actually could complement or supplement in terms of what you do. I know Harambee, there's an organization called Harambee. It places young people, trains them, and places them in companies. There's a lot of work that CETA is doing. How do you streamline these? How do you tap into it? Because talking to creatives, there's this notion of always wanting to bring in people who are in the creative sector to come and assist. Whereas you haven't done your own auditing of your capacity. What do I actually need in my business to be operational? Do I need a salesperson? Do I need an admin? Then you start, once you've identified that, look around, what's there in the ecosystem that I can tap into? So, and also other organizations like your Harambee, you're looking for someone in admin. Rather get someone who does something that's going to add value to your enterprise, as opposed to getting another creative who's going to be in the production side. There might be another program somewhere done by other stakeholders in terms of placing accountants or lawyers. Tap into those things. Try to have a strategy that is kind of like a youth recruitment strategy as a growing business, so that you are able to plug into your needs as a business. So that's one thing we've also been preaching, to businesses, like, don't always look at, I want someone who's going to help me with that productive. So that's what you always do. You want to unburden yourself. So you want to unburden yourself and then find the right people that are going to assist you in business. So that's also some of the work that we do. Collaboration, yes, it's important, but I think find partnerships and look for stakeholders or people that might, you can leverage on.
Andile?
For me, collaboration is key. Like, I collaborate every single day with factories that I use to produce my products. Even when I design some items, I've got people that help me with some factors of design, like graphic designers, doing the print. I've got it in my head, but I don't know how to. So I sit with you and I'm like, yo, move that there. So that's collaboration. And then on a retail platform, collaborate with other brands. I collaborate with my staff because I'm not there selling the stuff. Yes, they work for me, but we collaborate. I say, hey man, for you to sell this, let's look at it this way. I come back maybe a week later, I say, why haven't you sold this? No, I say, no, help me help you to sell this. That's a collaboration because you deal with people every single day. Hey, Andile, maybe the way we display this shouldn't, I've got a plan, right, with the store. But he's there, it's like, no, the customers are buying this a lot because we're putting it there. So I'm collaborating with that guy.
Yeah.
So for me, that's really how important collaboration is. With platforms like this, we're collaborating as we're sitting because we're solving so many problems that are there in general, but just by talking about these problems, we're collaborating with ourselves, we're collaborating with the audience that's going to see what we're talking about right now.
And trying to find solutions.
And trying to find solutions. So that's how I look at collab. It could be a very small thing, it could be a very big thing. You could work with a big brand, you could work with a big government institution, but if you open your mind and think in a way that it's not just my thought alone, just leave the door open to say, hey, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You might actually gain something, you might actually learn something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at collaborations.
That part of market access having a future, and does it have a future in the work and the planning that government will produce under the sector?
So I'd say, I think, I'm sure our panelists have heard of the Africa Free Trade market, right? So the intention is to get this market within the continent moving so the continent grows, right? So if that is the objective, as government, industry players, and any other stakeholder, how do we find mechanisms, yes, that will develop the SMEs which will tap into that market, that will develop the skills which will enhance our industry moving forward. So I think looking into the future, that is a market that we should definitely focus on, to understand as to what other African countries are looking for. How do we begin to align our designs, our creativeness towards those type of demands so that we can just tap into that market. But as well as collaborate with them and share ideas with other African countries, I think that would also assist in terms of getting this African trade, African market growing and develop as a continent.
Okay, this should be hosted for creatives. That is a lot more relaxed in its environment and is driven by conversation and information sharing. And do you feel that members of the market, the makers market, will have appetite? So for you, would your organizations in your group have appetite? So it's a lot more relaxed in terms of environment, and how could it then improve the way forward?
Certainly. The conversation is so important because creatives have this whole thing of you're always on a lonely journey. It's just you trying to figure this whole thing by yourself and facing all of these challenges, only to find out that the next creative is also going through the same thing. But we're not so much of community. And I mean, when people advise you in business, say, don't work in your business, you must work on your business. But we're doing everything. And then so you will find out a lot of your time is spent on you just trying to get this together. You're working with this, you're manufacturing, you are everything, you're the admin, you're the transport, all of it yourself. But we do not get to set aside time to say, all right, you know what, let me connect with other creatives. Let me find out what information is out there and who can assist me in my challenges. If we both have a challenge like this, and then where do we go? Because, I mean, sitting just here, there's so much information that's coming forth. I'm finding out things that I haven't come to know in the past 8 years, where I'm like, okay, there are certain things that I thought, okay, maybe I will not be able to pass this barrier because that's not accessible to me. So conversations like this are very, very important, you know, between creatives, between people who can provide market access, the government, we really, really need this type of support, but also because it's out there, it's a question of are we gravitating towards, grabbing what we can find, or we sit in our little corners and maybe complain about the challenges we have. Say, for example, if you mentioned the government, currently there's an issue of all of the products that are coming from everywhere else. And I think personally I'm very passionate about the value of the work that we create in the continent and in this country. My brand is called ROSA Handmade in South Africa. It is a handmade in South Africa, must be there. But then we find ourselves that, all right, now the value of the work that we produce is going down because there are all of these cheaper platforms that have been now created to bring everything in from everywhere else, and then now the consumer looks and thinks, okay, everything that's made in this country is too expensive for no reason. I can get this. There's a lot of replicating of our work, of our craft, of our art, of everything that we produce by other places, which are like bigger than. So if the government can really protect, artists and makers and designers that are in this very continent, we can really grow and be able to preserve the skills that we have and maintain the value of the work that we produce.
I think for me, in terms of platforms, it's very important. I echo exactly what you just said in terms of the need to be out there. But also on the other hand, I think also entrepreneurs tend to be stuck behind the screen. They don't want to go out. We've created platforms such as that, as the CDI, called the Creative Exchange, whereby we create a platform for networking, for information sharing, and just peer-to-peer learning. We've had great responses. We've tried it here in Johannesburg last year. We invited various stakeholders like the GTA, Gauteng Authority, Jersey, National Empowerment Fund. Because I was also say, this is what is available out there. There's a platform for that. But also it's also a platform for getting you guys together and chatting and talking.
You guys have been in the field. You're not newly established creatives, right? You have worked with creatives. You are hopefully friends and have relationships with other creative makers and businesses. It's also important to bring to the forefront where each entity or each party in this whole game has a responsibility, but also to note where are we going wrong. So I want to start with you, the makers, and your observations over the years.
That question, Janine, you're so right, because like you say, when you make the choice of becoming your own boss, your own entrepreneur, you kind of also don't understand the responsibility of that. Someone calls me, we were speaking with Janine, she calls me, I'm busy with something. Look, I'm not saying take every single call, but when someone calls you, you gotta have the responsibility to say, hey man, now I'm not. Hey man, what did you want? It's like those small little responsibilities that you also gotta hold yourself accountable in, as much as you say, hey, I'm my own business person, I do what I like, I wanna do all of these things, because like we're talking, the environment, you said that, also look at the environment. Because the environment doesn't wait for you to do as you please, as you want. The environment is a beast. It needs to be fed. How you feed it, I think you've got an opening there, but you still need to feed it at the end of the day. So there's the responsibility of understanding you've got responsibilities. I think that's such a very key.
I'm saying, because if spaces have already been set up where you then get together and one moment you show up for it, the next you're not. So it's a commitment that's required from the creatives themselves to say, I'm going to equip myself with the knowledge that I need. Because you see, like they said, if it's not structured, we're going to come into a conversation like that. It's like, oh my gosh, I've been carrying a lot. I can't wait to vent. And you're just coming and you're dumping everything on everybody, and there's this issue, there's that. Some of the things maybe you can speak about may not be relevant to other creatives. They may not be on the exact same journey with you, and then so some will find that those spaces aren't exactly beneficial to them, and the conversation is not really fruitful. So yes, to structure.
I'm saying we have to also call out the negligence. If it's negligence, we also have to feel the accountability. If we are, or yourself as organizations and entities, are offering opportunities, do you blacklist me if I don't show up? But keep registering. How do you create space for those who are committed? Because I feel the lack of commitment leads to fewer and fewer success stories.
Yeah.
And then everyone must be accountable for what came out of it. But everyone has a role to play, right?
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, I would say I think from us as GDD, when we say that we are committed towards the upskilling, SME development, we can't do that without the partners and ourselves enforcing the goal. And this is what we are trying to do with this particular project. Because if it's left open-ended and then without no commitment from the government implementing partner or our beneficiaries which receive that support, it affects the outcomes of the program. So each party needs to play their role, because without the beneficiaries, we really can't get the impact that we want in terms of development of the sector or tapping into other opportunities, for example, the Afri Modern trade agreement. So without commitment from all relevant stakeholders, we'll miss the ball.
Can I ask something, Jenny, before you answer? Between the two of you guys, you don't have to know like the full numbers. Let's say you run a program, right? Let's say you run these programs. Can you give me like stats and say, okay, last year I ran a program, 60% of the people, we took them from here to here, so that we know that next year we wanna move that number from 60% to 65%. We kind of know why we should get to 100%, but we know why we didn't get to 100%. These are the next steps that we should do inside us to kind of how we recruit, how we build the program, how we make sure the program is successful, so that we can just move the needle from 60% to 65%. Something like that, that type of understanding.
So maybe the workshop that you were, in terms of the market access, so the trading on the requirements both from the private as well as the public, right? So there were 10 SMEs, if I remember correctly, that received that trading on the day. And in terms of onboarding on an e-commerce platform, I think it was sitting around 4, and which are trading. But what we're trying to do is also track the impact of those which have been onboarded and trading. So in terms of the exact numbers, then maybe the spin-offs of the jobs created. So those are the type of things that we'll continuously try and observe. But in terms of the actual, we're having that there are people, there was an outcome from the workshop. It wasn't just a workshop for another workshop. So we did reach the outcome of the day, in which people were onboarded, which people are trading, and which other SMEs as well are also going through this onboarding process with the e-commerce platform. So that is the actual. But in terms of the program, it's still at its infancy. It's just starting off. So beneficiaries only starting off with the theoretical aspect of the trading. We should move on to the workplace. Some practical, and then work integrated training. So we also observe, and when there are challenges, obviously we look in and to try and find adaptive solutions so that we continuously try
and
Yes.
push towards our goal.
Okay. I'm one of those ones that.
Yes.
I'm one of those ones that didn't show up. But I'm very
Yeah. No, look, I think for me, yeah, this is a really important question. I think for commitment, it's a give and take. And like we said, we're really human-centered. And our platforms, we operate in different channels. We've got our platforms, which is our website. You register, the membership channel. You register as a CDI member, you get onboarded, and what you get to benefit from is our online learning platforms, our access to market platforms, and our product development platforms. So those are just, if you're a member, they're just generally open to you. We're sitting currently at, I think, over 6,000 members countrywide. So within that, the onus is on the entrepreneur, because what we've done, we created a platform, and it's up to you as to how do you then exploit and use the offerings that you offer at your own pace. And then we also have programs that we would normally have funded programs that are structured. So those would be different. We would then have call-outs. We need 20 or we need, depending on each program. And that's when we get to experience these things of attrition. People, they've committed, they've signed contracts, it's a year program, this is what it is. 2 months down the line, someone is not attending. So you've basically taken up another space for someone else who should have, use this opportunity. It's nature, it's human. Yeah. What do we do? We then get stuck between this because the funding requires this, and therefore we need to tick these boxes. We're living in a real world. Yeah. If someone drops out, there's nothing we can do about it. Life happens, But yeah, it is, people. We've had businesses that see our services, and they say, especially our coaching and mentoring, post some of our programs, they'll be like, can I still tap into your services? And I'm willing to pay. Because we are in an ecosystem whereby the onus is always given on government or us as civil society to offer things for free. And then once these things are offered for free, people take them for granted.
Yes.
So we've also realized that people are willing to pay for some of these services, and therefore how do we then accommodate that? How do we exploit it? How do we see that if someone is willing, that means there's value. There are people who would go out there, some of the programs that you do, some of the opportunities that you offer, they were like, actually, I would pay for that. So without being hard on all of us, we are in a country that we're trying to solve social problems, and therefore we always have to avail these opportunities. But the onus will always be on the individual. And that's we cannot control. Let's be realistic. Yeah.
Yes, with passion in creative sector. Most certainly. So, my advice to budding young entrepreneurs, would be that firstly, if you are passionate about something that you want to do, so the onus is always on you. You have to first believe in the vision that you may have. You may not see the entire picture and how your journey is going to pan out. Your journey may not be necessarily be exactly the same as the next person. But if you invest in everything that you need to get, your skills development, and also to find community of other creatives that can assist you on your way up to say, listen, this is what I want to develop, this is a problem that I'm trying to solve with my idea, this is how I envision the space. But commitment, commitment is, you have to commit to the journey requires you, you're the one that has to wake up every day, that has to show up for the work that you do, that has to reach out when you feel like, all right, now it's a bit too heavy for me, because too many entrepreneurs, they quit along the way, especially, if you're going to be like a small business, or you're going to be targeting a niche market where your product is not necessarily, something that can be mass produced. And then when you run into challenges, you may feel like, okay, now is this even worth the journey? Is it even worth the hardship that I have to face? But really, in order for you to establish yourself, even to make yourself more than just a maker, but a brand, a respected brand, your customer service, every opportunity that you get to market your work, to sell what you are making, and to collaborate. You're collaborating with your customers, you're collaborating with every person that you come across in relation to what you do. So treat all of those relationships with respect and show up where you need to be showing up, and really just commit to growing and growing and growing, and then things will come right for you. Yeah.
I think for me, a message to entrepreneurs or someone who's looking into getting into especially creative sector, it's a very rewarding thing, because you'll be tapping into your passion.
Mm-hmm.
But the challenge would be then, how do you then turn that passion into a revenue generating enterprise? And it's not going to be, it's not an easy journey, but always look out for opportunities, empower yourself with knowledge, understand your market, and just always be on the lookout for opportunities that might elevate your business to the next level.
Yeah.
They are out there. I think people have the tendency of saying there is no information, there's, we don't have an excuse. We live in a digital world, there's internet and everything. So instead of watching TikTok for entertainment, just use these platforms for empowerment.
When you get into business of arts and creation, you can't be afraid to work or look for opportunities, and just be driven to find those things, because now you're taking your passion into a business, so you have to actually look at it in that way. There's some things that you might have to stop doing, or there's something that you might have to add on, but just be aware. If you wake up with the intention of being aware, okay, I'm looking for an opportunity to gain knowledge or to sell my products or to develop new products, it all falls under opportunity and hard work. Just those two things.
The message that I would have is that as an entrepreneur, your business is made out of different components, right? So if you're seeking ways to increase or improve your productivity, there are opportunities out there which assist SME needs in terms of developing. If you need assistance in terms of marketing, there are platforms or there are organizations which will assist in that aspect. So developing yourself, yes, but in terms of, as well as having conversation with relevant parties, don't be afraid to reach out, because reaching out will unlock further knowledge that will assist you as an entrepreneur